What's up, everybody? We're back again. It's the Dadbod Golf Pod. You got Kyle and Ben and a super special guest from the Rick and Bubba Show, Mr. Michael Helms. Helmsey, a.k.a. What's up, man? How's it going?
Guys, this is fantastic. Thanks for having me. Love this setup y'all got.
You've taken a step down. You said last night you were talking at a church, and now you're talking to us two yahoos. So I kind of feel both good and bad at the same time. I feel bad for you, but good for us.
Listen, Ben, I talk to anybody that'll talk to me.
There you
That's
go.
it. It's simple.
Appreciate the shout out this morning on the kickoff hour. That's probably my favorite hour of the show because that's when you're a little tired, a little punchy, and it's you and Greg and Speedy, and y'all just let it go. And that was awesome. We really appreciate that.
You know, there's a saying, when the parents are away, the kids will play. And there's a lot that goes on in that regard in that kickoff hour, but it's a lot of fun. There's worse things to do for a living than get up with your best friends and just ham it up on the radio. So
I know.
Very, very fortunate to have the platform and do what we get to do.
The funny part about that, Helmsey, is here locally in the Auburn-Opelika area, I do a radio show. And so all my buddies were sending me clips, including Kyle and Nate, of you guys talking about us during the kickoff hour. I wanted my response to send back to all of them. Thanks for listening to me this morning, boys. I greatly appreciate it. That was very nice of you to do.
It's like a double-edged sword right there.
Well, that's what makes these things great. Technology these days, you don't have to listen live. You can. I've probably got 10 different things that I listen to throughout the day, and none of them I listen to live. So that's what I love about the fact that we've advanced so much in technology that we get to have these platforms like this. It's very cool.
It is. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I love the name of y'all's podcast, by the way. Dadbod Golf Pod. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
It rhymes.
Literally,
it's easy to remember.
What did it take us, Kyle? It took us, what was it, like 30 seconds while we were texting to come up with that name, and it stuck immediately. Everybody was like, how did you come up with that? What focus groups did you use? And I said, it was a group of 3 guys texting. After about 2 texts in, we had it, and it was done.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, Helms, you know the definition that we use of what a dad bod is?
I do not.
So a dad bod is someone that when they take their shirt off, you're neither impressed nor repulsed at the same time. That's a dad bod.
So I guess I probably fall into that category. I hope I do. I hope I do at this point.
The best way to think of it is we tell people, we go, all you dads out there that are listening, to go to the neighborhood pool. When you go and you're with your kids, if they're not grunting at you and snorting at you, meaning that you are just hideous, but they also, none of them are checking you out whatsoever. You walk by and you're just invisible when you walk by the pool. It's been quite some time.
It's been quite some time since I've recognized somebody checking me out. So
there you go.
Join the club. That's why it was so easy for us to come up with a name, because it ain't happening to us either.
So exactly. So the name just kind of perfectly fit for us and what we want to do. And we just like talking. We like talking about golf like you do. Like you're the guy, so, for the longest time on the Rick and Bubba Show, that any golf news or whatever, they kind of leaned on you to kind of talk about it. But you weren't overly technical. You weren't overly professional. You just like to talk about it like a regular Saturday, Sunday golf group. So that's why we wanted to have you on, and we enjoy y'all's show, and we enjoy the stand that you guys take, and we kind of want to be associated. We want to be associated with guys like you. So
I appreciate that. So
tell us a little bit about how long you've been with the show, how that worked out, and this, that, and the other.
Because when we read your bio, it's kind of unique.
Well, it is. And it's funny. I've been with the show for about, I guess I will start my 13th year in October. So it's been longer than most think. And it is unique because I didn't necessarily want to be in the radio and television business. That was so far-fetched. If I'll even go this far with it, if you would have came to me 14, 15 years ago and said, hey, by the way, in the next couple of years, you're going to be a part of a nationally syndicated radio and television show, I would have laughed you out of the room. I mean, that was so far from any imagination that I could think of. And I was in the healthcare IT business. So I was in college and I studied business and luckily got out with a degree. And just, you know, I was one of these guys. Matter of fact, y'all don't even know this. My first job out of college as a business major was an assistant golf professional at Oxmoor Valley.
Nice.
So wow. Part of, and awesome. For those that don't know what Oxmoor Valley, it's here in Birmingham, but it's part of the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail.
Yes.
And so all growing up, I probably played, this is going to be a long story.
That's fine.
I probably played, I think I played my first round of golf when I was 15. I didn't grow up in a golf family. My dad doesn't play, never played, really probably despised the sport at some point. He was kind of always making fun of me for playing it. I was a baseball, football, basketball, kind of hard-nosed guy. That I didn't come out of those three. But I was dating a girl in high school. I was 15, and her uncle, his name's Donnie Horton. I don't even know what Donnie's doing today, but he invited me to play golf for the first time. And we played at Briarmead Golf Course in Glencoe, Alabama.
Wow.
And by the way, one of my best friends growing up owns that golf course today. That's crazy within itself.
Wow.
And so
full circle.
It's a great little track and played it. And just from that point in time, slowly but surely fell in love with the game of golf, and probably didn't get serious with it until I was about 20. I was actually playing baseball in college, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to pick up the sticks, but I worked at a golf course. In my off time, I worked in the summers, and when I was not playing ball, I was working at a golf course. So, you know, I'd always hit range balls. I'd get there early and hit range balls, and I'd stay late and hit range balls. And so I'd stay on the putting green and just putt, and I just fell in love with the game, and it became an addiction, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I probably had it in a wrong place, if we're just being honest.
Yeah.
But then baseball gets, and I had worked anywhere from, look, I started, weed eating and working on maintenance crews and mowing fairways and mowing tee boxes and working that side of it, and then moving into the clubhouse and doing bag drop and working the desk. And so there was a time where I went on about a 3 or 4 year span where I was working everything golf business, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. Then when I got out of college, I needed to get to Birmingham. And so my wife, you know, she knew what she was going to do. She wanted to be that was goofy too. When we first met, I asked her, I said, you know, I was trying to be sharp. And I said, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And she was very specific. I mean, as a junior in college, looked at me and said, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse at Brookwood Medical Center. And I thought, well, gosh, that's awful specific. I don't even know what I want for dinner later tonight, much less have that kind of plan. So I knew that. And so we needed to get back to Birmingham, and there was a guy at Silver Lakes. That's where I grew up as part of the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, was the Silver Lakes, which is a Gadsden, Anniston, Glencoe kind of thing.
Yep.
And the director of golf at the time said, hey, you need to apply for this marketing director's job that's at Oxmoor Valley. And I'm like, okay. And so I apply for it, and I go interview for it. And he was straight up. Brad Shirley was director of golf at that point in time. He goes, look, here's the deal. Not going to hire you as a marketing director. Okay. I've got somebody else for that spot, but I knew if I told you that, you wouldn't come meet with me. I've got an assistant golf professional position. I'll hire you today. Love to have you as part of our team. Well, I'm a hack around kind of guy. At that point, I was probably an 8 handicap, something like that. And so I didn't know what that looked like. If you're going to be an assistant golf professional, I figured I needed to be able to really swing the stick.
Right.
Much better than I did. And he's like, no, it's not like that. He's like, we're going to give you plenty of time to, you know, back then, I don't even know how they do it now, but back then they had the player ability test.
Right.
And, you know, you took that and then you started the program. And so I ended up taking that. I took that at Tanny Hill National, which is not even around anymore.
Wow.
And of course I passed my PAT, and here we go. And I spent like 8 months in the golf business. And then I moved on to some other things. And I really think, I say this, I'm so fortunate for what I do. I think if I would have started off somewhere different, maybe at a private club somewhere, I may still be in the golf business today. I don't know. It was just a grind, man. They were doing 500 rounds a day. You never had time to play golf. And even if you did, it wasn't like at these private clubs where you could just jump out and play 7, 8, 9 or go to the range and hit balls. Everything was so jammed packed. And so it really wore on me. And I was losing that love for the game because, you know, you're working 6 days a week, 14, 15 hours a day. The last thing you want to do on that 7th day is go to the golf course.
Right.
And so I got out of the golf business, got a real job, and then fell back in love with playing. So you asked the question about how to end up at Rick and Bubba. I'd actually was playing a ton of golf with some friends, and they were wanting to go play tennis. And I'm like, guys, I'm not a tennis player. I'm a golfer, and I just don't play tennis. And they said, come on. And so went and played that night with Bubba. Didn't know who he was, didn't know a whole lot about him, but we got along really well and struck up this friendship. And the next thing you know, we go by 2 years of our families doing some vacations together, and us playing tennis and us playing golf and us playing hunting and us going to the beach. And then a couple years down the road, through that friendship, they had a need that arose within the show and asked me to do it. And here we are 13 years later. So it's been quite the run. It's way more than I ever thought it would be. And just fortunate to be a part of it, for sure.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. That's a cool story. So Bubba playing tennis, that's an interesting image. State champion.
I gotta, not pickleball, tennis.
Yeah. He doesn't look the part, but I'm going to tell you, he on the doubles court, when he gets up at the net, look out. He's dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Has a lot of area he can cover.
Yeah.
Quick hands.
He'll get, and he's told me this before, and now I'm getting to that age. I'm 43 now, so I don't move near as well as I used to either. You know, age is undefeated. It happens to all of us. And so I remember times where guys like Bubba would say, hey, listen, Helms, I'm going to be just a monster up here at the net, and you go get every ball you can get. And so here's what's funny about that is that's fine. And sometimes in those situations, you kind of feel like you're playing singles. But I find myself today telling other guys that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That Bubba told me, hey, listen, hey, you get all you can get. You get all you can get.
I'm going to hover.
Yeah.
I'm going to lurk right here around the net. That's awesome.
Exactly. I love it.
Exactly.
So you talked about how you have a little bit of you had some back issues and you haven't been able to play quite maybe at all a lot lately. How much is it the rotation? Like, you still playing tennis and stuff like that? Is it the rotation that makes it tough? Like, what is it there that kind of keeps you from?
Yeah, it's a couple things. Yeah, it's a couple things, and I guess I've always had back issues, but what's happened? It's in that L4, L5 area. It's herniated and bulging disc, those kind of things. It's been going on since I was, I guess, my senior year in college. Just wear and tear from sports and those type of things. Genetic too doesn't help. My parents have some back issues, so I'm sure that plays a part in it as well. But, you know, the older I get, you know, I would have these flare-ups and they would come, you know, every few years. And then it would take me like a day or so to get over it.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, it started happening more frequently. And so, listen, I'm a guy and the guys make fun of me here, I'm an all-in kind of guy. So in order for me to play golf at a level that I want to play, I got to put time into it. I've got to be at the range. I've got to be playing rounds. I got to spend some time on the putting green. And my back just got to a point where I couldn't enjoy it because I'm that type of guy. And maybe one day I'll be able to let that go and just go play ever so often. But, you know, I'm a competitor and I love to compete. And when I'm out there with buddies or playing in tournaments, I have to practice in order to do that at a level I want to. And so it's just tough. It's just tough. And so I've had some things, matter of fact, over the last couple of years, I've just said, you know what, the heck with it right now. I got to get my back in shape. And oddly enough, this sounds weird. I know tennis has been really good for it because I'm constantly, I can go play tennis for 2 or 3 hours and my back never hurt. And I think it's because you're constantly working the core, you're bouncing around, you're stretching out. And with golf, you're making that one move constantly. And then putting, it's really, I'll stand over the ball and it's putting is a struggle there too. But I'll tell you what I think too causes some of this is I would walk a lot when I play, and my back didn't hurt near as much. It wouldn't hurt near as much when I walked. a lot of times when I'm playing and getting in and out of a cart that was a struggle. So hopefully one day, my kids, I got to a point where they were playing a good bit. And so I kind of, my love was rejuvenated through them, but now they've kind of moved on to some other things, or they have moved on to some other things. So it's one of those deals where it's just not worth hurting my back for 3 or 4 days in order to play. I can't practice the way I want to, because I love that. Like, I love going to the range and beating balls for hours. I'm that guy. Cool. And so, and I just can't do that. And so I've had to take a step back. But man, I love the game of golf. There's nothing better for me when we have a major week and I can just go to live from wherever on the Golf Channel and just take it in all week from, and it's odd. People, those guys that I love, this is not going to be a popular comment, what I'm about to make. Okay. I love Brandel Chambly. I know people do not like him in the golf world. He's a know-it-all, whatever, but I love him. I love his takes. And the man is just full of knowledge when it comes to the game of golf. And I love that.
We like him more than Johnny Miller. I don't know where that ranked, but we're
I don't know what this is about me. I like Johnny Miller too. Do you know what I think about Johnny Miller? I think Johnny Miller is like the Greg Burgess of our show. He's just calling golf.
Yeah.
He just says it like it is, and rarely cleans it up. And so
he never apologizes for anything that he says. We were talking about it. The last pod that we did, we'd mentioned he always talks about Justin Thomas and the U.S. Open on the third. I think it was the third. It was either round 2 or round 3. Justin shot a 62 or 61, and he kept on saying, "Yeah, but it's not a final round because I shot the final round low." And it's kind of like, man, he shot a 61 in the U.S. Open. I don't care if it's round 1 or round 4. 61's a 61.
Our biggest thing about Johnny Miller is mostly just, we don't care. We like the stuff you're talking about where he just speaks it, but it's like, I got to let everybody know how good I was a lot.
Yeah. I know.
That's kind of aggravating. So
that always rubs people wrong.
Yeah. Talking about back issues. So you have probably one of the greatest segments, one of my favorite segments of all time in Rick and Bubba history in the past. And it's where you had, I believe, like a pain block or something like that in your back, and the guys call you before your anesthesia wears off, and
they did,
and it's absolute gold. And but the best part is you weren't alone when they called you, right?
Correct. I was so it was an epidural block. And, and so for those of you that you can either choose anesthesia or get it without it. And I'm a big anesthesia fan. Okay. I think it's the greatest nap on the planet.
Me too.
And so I just, there's something about laying there and needles. I don't need to see some big needle going in my back. And so, hey, put me out. And so I'm coming back. Rick is speaking in Augusta, Georgia that evening. And so the thought, we're supposed to get this tour of Augusta and of Augusta National. And so I'm like, man, I'm in. I know I've got to have this procedure done, but everything should be wore off by then. So the guys were wanting to check with me and see how I was feeling, because we were going to get on an airplane in a few hours and go to Augusta. And so, guys, they caught me at a time where I was not off the anesthesia, and it's embarrassing. There are times where my wife will go, "See, that's why I don't listen to the show," right there. and this was one of those moments. And of course, it got into me talking about how much I love the guys, and just just the things that you would say anybody that's been under that kind of medication. And we did make it to Augusta. I ended up going, and the tour was not ideal. It wasn't what it was built up to be. And I don't think that was on the people setting it up. I think that was on Rick not understanding what level of clearance we needed to actually get on the grounds at Augusta. But man, I was just happy to be pain-free and just on a trip hanging out. So I didn't really care. And but it was great. We got to ride around and look at a couple things, and I've actually been so prior. I kind of knew what to look for. I've been fortunate enough to be at two Masters, 2004 and 2006, both that Phil Mickelson won. So matter of fact, I nearly emailed Phil, not that he would respond to an email from me, but I have a weird deal with Phil Mickelson. Like my son.
Yeah, me and you both, especially this weekend.
So my son was born. So he wins in 2004. I was there. In 2005, my son is born on a Monday, August 15th, which happened to be there was rain on Sunday. The final round of the PGA Championship was a Monday finish. He wins that tournament. My son is born. My wife is in labor going, can you please turn off the PGA Championship? Like, we're having our first child, and you're dialed into that like no other. And then 2006, Phil wins another Masters. I'm there for that. And so my thought was, Phil, I'm really good luck for you. Like, you need to put me on your team here, man. I am good for Phil Mickelson. And he really should be my favorite golfer. He's not, but he's close. And so got that relationship with Phil for sure. A lot of memories of Phil Mickelson for me in golf. So.
Sure. Well, the guys have chastised me because I took him this weekend to surprise everybody and win the Travelers, and he didn't make the cut. So your relationship with Phil and my relationship with Phil, at least this weekend, is way different. You mentioned favorite golfer. So who is the favorite golfer?
I'm gonna get in trouble with this one.
I got in trouble for calling a bunch of people Bammers yesterday. So I'm not. You're gonna be okay. Trust me.
Well, again, you got to remember the era in which I come up in, and it was around when I got serious about it. It was around that 2000, 2001 and on into mid 2000s. And so Tiger Woods was my favorite. And just what he did for the sport. And, he's always been my guy. And I've always tried to emulate things that he does, from the way he practices, the way he swings a golf club. And even as a 20-year-old, this is where it's going to sound addictive and scary, but as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, where I would watch video of him and I would try to mimic it, even in the home in a mirror. And so he's always been my guy. And obviously had some issues later on that we all wish that he wouldn't have had. And
you did not try to emulate those. You did not try to emulate
those are the ones you want to stay away from for sure. But him winning number 15 was so special, I think, for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm anxious to see if he's going to come back. I'm going to be honest. I just don't know, with all the injuries and everything, it's that you never want to count the guy out for sure. I mean, every time I try to count the guy out and say he's not going to be back, he comes back and does it. So I certainly don't want to be that guy.
Listen, my wife doesn't understand. You mentioned Tiger. That's my favorite. Same deal. I mean, I'm a year older than you, so I grew up watching him, and even from the amateur tournaments that he won to getting on tour and Hello World and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And
yes,
she thinks it's funny because she said, "How can you know this about a golfer?" I remember where I was when he was in his accident when his wife chased him down. And I was sitting at home with my parents for Thanksgiving, and this was pre-social media. So this was just like bottom line ticker coming across ESPN at the bottom. Yeah. And I remember being deflated and depressed and let down that one of my heroes, because I knew something else was involved other than just an argument that took place at the house that escalated and turned bad, turned bad. And I remember after that and him going to rehab and all that, I just got kind of disinterested in watching golf because my hero wasn't playing, and the guy that was my hero now has done something that we don't want any of our friends to do. It was tough to watch.
It was.
And so then when he comes back, and you mentioned about him, getting the major and winning at Augusta. I mean, the other most excited I've been is when he was in Atlanta and that crowd walking behind him and he taps in to win.
Yeah.
And it completely overshadowed, Kyle and I were talking about this on one of the previous pods. A lot of people don't even realize who won the FedEx Cup that year because they were just so happy that Tiger won.
You're right.
And the fact that his kids were there, and when they walk across the overpass And like, that was when his kids realized, oh crap, people actually like you. Like they're here for you. They're not here for Justin Rose that year.
Yeah. At that point,
it clicked with them. And that's when they were kind of like, he's not dad anymore. Like, he really is bigger than life and amongst these people that are watching him.
Yeah.
And so I remember feeling a sense of joy. And then of course he's had other issues, and I still keep going back. He comes back out there, I'm still going to be glued to the television. I don't care if he shoots 85, I'm going to watch him.
There is and I know you guys have already seen it, but your audience may not have. There is a documentary on HBO about Tiger's life, and it's recent. It's in the last year. And if you're a Tiger fan, or if you're not a Tiger fan, it's worth the watch. And the reason I say that, and I'm not giving Tiger a pass on anything. We as adults have our own decisions to make. There's consequences for those decisions. Completely get that. But when you watch this documentary, you realize, when you look into some of his issues with his dad, you realize the apple just doesn't fall far from the tree here.
Right.
No. And he, you have that kind of success early. On top of that, you have the generational sin and the generational issues that he has going on. It doesn't justify it by any means, but it explains a lot.
Humanize a little bit.
It does. And so, I hope he wins 16. I hope we see him make another comeback and win 16. I'm doubtful, but again, I've learned the hard way. You don't count the man out. Phil Mickelson would probably be my second guy. I love Rory. I'd like to see Rory go on a tear as he probably edges out, the rest of his career.
Right.
I'm a DJ guy. I like him. I like Koepka. The guys that you would think. I like these guys that are able to wrap off. Justin Thomas, I probably don't give enough to. I like him, but I probably don't give as much as I need to him. But man, I think the game's in really good shape, and there's a ton of guys sitting there just sitting on G, waiting on O for a bunch of majors. So
the way I always talk about Tiger is, how he would keep coming back, and he'd be able to play for like a year or so, or this, that, and the other. It's like when you're in high school and it's that first like real girlfriend that you just loved so much. But she was like still like flirting with other guys, and she'd go and she'd come back. And so like the heartbreak of her going away was terrible, but every time she came back, it was just so good again. That's like exactly the feeling I have for him. And I'm like you, man, with leg injuries and back injuries. It's going to be tough, but you cannot count that dude out. The more you count him out, the more he could come back and drop one on you when you least.
You're right. And age is catching up with him and Phil both. And I guess if I had a wish list, like if you pinned me down and said, hey, if you could have a couple things happen over the next couple years in the golfing world, what would it be? And it would probably number one would be Tiger winning another one, making another comeback. And number two would be Phil winning the US Open. I mean, he's had 6 sniffs at it at number 2, and I would love to see him complete that and grab that. Sure. And so and as we saw last year, he still got the game to do it. So would love to
on you every now and then.
Yeah.
So a couple of like quick fire type questions. We've done this. We've had like whole shows on this stuff, but I want to bring you in, see where you stand on this. We've had big debates, this, that, and the other. So number one, what's your top favorite golf movie?
I bet most people say Tin Cup. That's not my favorite.
Nope.
The greatest game ever played would be my number 1. And then Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius would be my number 2.
Wow.
That's two of my top 3 because we did top 3.
And I would go Tin Cup 3rd, and then 4th would be Legend of Bagger Vance.
Where's Happy Gilmore? Does Happy Gilmore crack your top 5?
It doesn't crack my top 5, and the reason it doesn't is
because it's not a golf movie.
Well, I don't want to get into that debate because of what happened last week on our show with the Field of Dreams. But I will say it like this: I'm more of a serious guy. Sometimes I need to lighten up. Okay, there's enough serious in the world, but I am a more serious guy. So you'll see me lean to the more serious side of movies. And the greatest game ever played and Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, and then even moments in A Legend of Bagger Vance, it'll pull at your heartstrings.
For sure.
Yes.
And so, and I'm that kind of guy. I hate to admit that, but I'm an emotional guy, and those will stir some emotions in me, if I'm just being honest.
So where does Caddyshack rank on this?
Oh goodness.
Because Kyle's not a fan.
I'm not. I don't even. I would say what you said. It's not a golf movie. In regards to, I would have the same. This is taking a bad turn. I know. I'll even classify it as a golf movie, but it wouldn't be in my top. It may not be in my top 8 or 9.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I look at movies like 7 Days in Utopia. Sevi, the movie is fantastic.
Sevi movie. It is.
So
sure.
But again, these are serious, emotion pulling movies. You can tell where I go with this stuff. So Happy Gilmore, Caddyshack, I'll give you that they're golf movies, but they're on down in the list for me.
For sure. What is the best turn food? Like,
Ooh,
boy.
Coming. What's the best turn? Do you go light? You go heavy? What's the top?
I go light, and for me it's, and this is probably goofy, but I just go peanut butter crackers and a Gatorade. That's my turn. I keep it simple. You get you a little protein in there to hold you over until you get back home through 18, and you can go in the clubhouse and tear something up heavier.
That's a granola bar, something like that.
Granola bar's a great example.
See, I'd say exactly. I thought so.
Gosh,
these guys that grab, these chili cheese dogs and hamburgers and heavy sandwiches and make the turn. I can't do it.
What about a turkey wrap? How you feel about a turkey wrap?
I'm okay with a turkey wrap.
Don't encourage it. Don't encourage it. That's Kyle's go-to. We make so much fun of him. Don't encourage it.
I wouldn't do it just for the simple fact of, I just like to pop a cracker in my mouth and be looking at my yardage book while, standing in the fairway. I feel like the turkey wraps are probably a little too high maintenance for me, but I'm okay with it. I wouldn't make fun of you.
You wouldn't turn your nose up at it, right?
No, absolutely. No.
You'd be the only one in the group didn't make fun of him.
we have another guy. He's out slinging cars today, Nate, and he's a big hot dog guy.
Okay,
huge hot dog guy. He's getting a hot dog at the turn every time he plays golf, and
and they made fun of me because I do pregame meal. I do snacks on the course. I got a snack bag. And it may be a heavy meal. It may be a chili cheese dog, but then I'm going to go hit a few balls. I'm going to get, I'm not hurting when I hit the first hole, but I'm also not hungry the entire time. Yeah. So I'm more of a pregame guy, but turkey wrap rush there. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Hate it all you want. It works. So,
absolutely.
And one of the last things maybe we want to talk about, we're both fathers of daughters. And I know at one point in time, your girls played, at least one, if not both, played golf. Your son has played golf. I think our daughters, but I could say this safely, have zero interest. And it's like, I'll go out and ride with you in the car as long as you spend about $50 on snacks and this, that, and the other. With competitive women's golf and scholarships and things like that, it's such an opportunity. How do you get your daughters? How do you give them the itch as far as wanting to learn how to play? What's the advice there?
First of all, I want to know how old your daughters are.
Mine, I got a 12 and a 13-year-old, and the 13-year-old is the only one that showed it. The 12-year-old is not a sports person in general. So she's ballet, she's arts and entertainment, and
all girl. Yeah.
She would love to do something more like this than she would be anywhere near. And but the 13-year-old, man, I got the clubs, and it was when she was young, like the junior club, nothing expensive, but take her. She's flirted with the idea of being the camera person for me and Kyle when we go out. But she's like his daughter. She'd rather have $50 spent on M&Ms and pretzels and as many sodas as she can drink before we have to go home to mom than she is hitting a golf ball.
Sure. Kyle, how old's your daughter?
My daughter's 6, and she's gymnastics, cheerleading, makeup, girly girl. She has no desire.
You said how old? 6?
6, yeah.
I think, all right. So I think we can make this a broader discussion for all parents that are listening in. But I will say this to you, Kyle. I think you still have some hope. I think you still. I mean, I'm serious. And the reason I say that is because, and this is, look, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 8-year-old. Boy, girl, girl. Okay. And if I had to do anything over as it relates to sports, I wouldn't have started my kids so early in certain sports. So, for instance, my son, anything my kids started doing between the ages of 5 and 8, they no longer do. Okay. They played and they played. That was these sports, mainly for Braden, but Caroline is in here too, my 14-year-old. Baseball, basketball, football, golf. They had not played tennis yet. And basketball, I said basketball. There was another run in there. I guess that was it. And so that was the 4 that they started between 5 and 8. And they ran, and even gymnastics. Gymnastics was one of them for Caroline. They stopped doing all of that. And so what I am doing with my 3rd child, who is now 8, is I have purposefully waited to introduce her to a few of the sports that we all love as a family, because I didn't want to do that at 5, 6, or 7, because by the time they got 10 or 11, I was afraid they was going to be done with it. And I say that, here's my basis behind that. My kids, Braden and Caroline, the 16-year-old and 14-year-old, when they were 12, started playing tournament tennis. I didn't know nothing about junior tennis, had no clue about that world. That was something they jumped into. They started hitting balls, and they would take clinics and stuff like that between probably 10 and 11 years of age. And I guess my wife, she gave me some of the greatest shut up juice. Probably, I guess Braden was 12 and Caroline had just turned 11. And she said, because I was still trying to get them to do things. Braden was playing in tournament golf, but he really wasn't interested in it. Caroline was playing tournament golf, really wasn't interested in it. They went from, I'm 8 years old and I'm playing tournament golf and I'm loving this, to, and many people out there don't even know that there's tournament golf for 8 and 9-year-olds, but there is.
Yeah.
And so they were all in, and they were playing some of the most fantastic courses. They were having some success. And then both of them just basically said, I'm done with this. And it really bothers me in my daughter, because she, everybody's, delusional to some point about their own kids. Get that. But she could swing a golf club.
Sure.
And she had the mentality to work her way around the golf course and understand at an early age, 9 and 10, hey, I know I've got to hit this shot 50 yards, but there's water in front of that and I can't carry that. So I'm going to take this out to the left, but now I'm worried about that bunker. So maybe I go this. She had that mindset at an early age, and she could hit it, and she was a lefty, which made it even better. All lefties look smooth. I don't know. I'm envious of it. So, but she stopped playing, and they have gone on to love tennis. And what's funny about this is, my wife, this is what she said one day. She said, you and the kids do sports all the time. And she used this example with Braden, but it was the same for Caroline. She said, every day you guys do something. Y'all go hit baseballs, you go hit him grounders, y'all shoot hoops, you run routes and throw football. Y'all go hit golf balls. She goes, but all of those things he does with you, and you guys have a lot of fun, but he never asks you to do that. He can't walk in this door without asking you to go hit tennis balls. You ought to listen to him. And I thought, wow, okay, that hurt a little bit. And so at that moment, I started kind of evaluating, and I didn't hear that right away. I still forced him to play one more year of baseball, and I still tried to encourage him to play one more year of basketball, and I encouraged him to play Birmingham Golf Association. They have a fantastic tournament schedule here in our area. And And then there's another circuit that's here. Tried to get them to do it. And man, they just, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the pressure of these individual sports. I don't know. But I will say this, I didn't push tennis on them. I kind of let them go their own way. And they have both fell into being some pretty decent tournament players and can't get enough of it. I mean, these are kids that practice 2, 3, 4 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, playing tournaments on the weekend. And I didn't bring tennis to the forefront for them. They actually chose it.
Wow.
I'll tell you a funny story. This happened a couple of weeks ago. We were in a tournament in Rome, Georgia. And I just looked up and Coach Kirby Smart was there. And I was like, why is Coach Smart here? And that's weird. And I knew him because of the show and us doing the Regions Tradition. We always have him on. He's played with Bubba a couple times in the Pro-Am. And so I went up to him. I didn't figure he would remember me or anything. So I introduced myself as Helmsey from the Rick and Bubba Show and just said, hey, Coach, what on earth brings you to Rome, Georgia at a tennis tournament? Like, I was not expecting to see you here. And he said, well, my son plays, blah, blah, blah. And he said this. He said, man, this is driving me nuts. He's like, you can't say anything to him. And he said, you know how you've seen me on the sideline and how passionate I am. And man, I got this kid over here calling balls out when they're in, and I want to say something to my son and I can't. And this thing's policed so much, I'm going to have a heart attack. And I said, Coach, I got to be honest with you. I said, I think that's why your son likes the sport. And he sat there and he looked at me and I said, no, I'm being serious. I said, I think that's why my kids love the sport so much, because I'm out of the way. And I said, that was hard for me to get used to. Yeah. And in that moment, he was like, I almost wish you wouldn't have told me that. He said, that's exactly why. And I said, I'm just telling you, I said, I really think that's why my kids have blossomed into this quite nicely, is because I hadn't been involved. I've took them to practices. I watch them play, but I'm not out there, getting on them and doing this and that. I didn't know the sport well enough to do that. I knew enough to be dangerous and help them out where I could, but it was just a dose of reality to me. And so I would just simply say to anybody that has kids in sports, first of all, everybody thinks that their kid is different and special. And I'm here to tell you they're not.
No,
they're not. I mean, I know that's a dose of reality that nobody wants to hear, but it's true. And so, hey, stop all this. My kid's going to be all that in sports, and let them, if they're going to be all that in sports, that you'll see that later on. Don't ruin it for them when they're 5 to 8. And I feel like I probably did that for my kids with certain sports. And if I could go back, I will.
I've tried not to do that. And but our rule is here, and my kids don't like it, but I'm stubborn. I'm going to stick to this rule. When you start, you have to finish. Now, you don't have to try out next season, or you don't have to, if the dance class is over after the recital, if you don't want to re-up for dance, or you don't want to re-up for gymnastics once the competition's over, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But we ain't stopping mid-season. And but I still kind of wonder, it makes me think in the back of my head, are they not signing up for something because they got that rule? Now that they're old enough, now they're 12 and 13, they know, if I do this and I can't stand it, Dad's making me stay the whole 6 months to finish it out before I'm able to bow out. Yeah. And so I've kind of wondered if that, but I've told my wife, I said, that's the rule we're sticking by. You start it, you got to finish it, at least that season. And then we'll reevaluate afterwards. And I
don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, especially in this day and age in our society that we live in, that's a good rule of thumb. And we go by that as well. And to, like, I've got an 8-year-old girl, she'll be 9 in September. And I've purposely held her off from anything. I mean, she's done a gymnastics thing here or there. She's, when Brady and Caroline were hitting golf balls and she was like 4 or 5, she'd go out and mess around with that. But I've purposefully held her out. She took her first tennis lesson 2 weeks ago. It was a tennis clinic. She don't know the first thing about it. Don't care. I don't even think she hit a ball that day. Like, I mean, I was just like, she's missing everything. But if she enjoys it, I think she's got a chance. If I would have started her at 5,
she'd be done.
She'd be done by now. Yeah. And so it works out for some people, but for the majority, the parents that I talk to, It's more what I'm talking about than it's not.
And I should see that too, because I got one of my buddies, he listens to the pod. One of my buddies, Nathan, that he's got a great job and helps a bunch of churches out and that kind of thing. But the little thing that people don't know, and it's funny because we've played in these tournaments together, and they'll pair us with a long drive. Nathan's 165 pounds soaking wet and just out drives long drive champions. And I was like, man, why did you not keep going? He goes, I was forced to play golf from like the age of 4 all the way through junior. He went over and played like overseas in junior golf tournaments, and he kind of put them away in college and didn't touch them, and then picked them back up after college when he got into a profession. And now we have a great time playing, but he didn't take it near as serious. But the thing is, he plays 4 times a year, and Kyle, he'll still wax the two of us, man. It's not even, it's so infuriating to go play with a guy like that.
I know.
So y'all are really,
and that's the beauty of these sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say y'all are really bummed me out. I was really focused on the 7 and 8 year old long drive championship at Augusta. Hopefully,
start with the chip and putt. How about that? Start with the chip and putt.
That's what I meant. The drive, chip and putt. Yeah, that's what I meant.
See, we did all that. Like Braden and Caroline did every bit of that. Man, we got on the road. They qualified, and they went on to like 3 or 4 stages of that, and it was such a great experience. But I think, I think there was too much pressure, and for them, and they just didn't. They just didn't. I don't know what it was, and it is one of my, like, especially with Caroline. Like Braden he's self-sufficient. He kind of does. He's pretty athletic kid, kind of picks and chooses and does this. And, but Caroline, and she's a really good tennis player. I don't want her to hear this and go, well, he doesn't. She was a really, like, that bothers me. Like could have been a difference maker on the golf course. And she just didn't. That's the thing. You got to have the passion for it. You can't teach them that. Right. And that's the frustrating thing. And so, I mean, I got one now. My 8-year-old's riding horses, of all things. Like, I don't know. You talking about not knowing the first thing and scared to death of that.
That's going to get expensive.
Oh yeah. I have not bought a horse at this point. And my plan is not to, but it's one of those
Good
things.
luck with that.
We're just I'm just at this age, I'm kind of letting her kind of fill this thing out. And, but I made a deal with her. That's why she did the tennis lesson. I said, hey, listen, I said, if you'll do it for every horse lesson you do, you got to take a tennis lesson. And I'm not saying you got to do like your brother and your sister and play in all these tournaments and play on school teams. I'm not saying that at all. But I want us to be, when we go to the beach one day and your brother and sister are wanting to play some doubles, you can jump in and play with us.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of these sports, what you're talking about with your kids. You know, to this day, we go on a vacation and we play golf. They still get their golf clubs out and we can go play, and it's competitive. That's awesome. And it's fun. Braden, perfect story for this. I had 3 buddies call me the other day wanting to play doubles, and we couldn't find a 4th. And Braden played with us, my 16-year-old. And it was fantastic. He was able to be around these grown men and let them pour into him a little bit. And of course, he was waxing us. You know, we had no chance, but it was a moment that we could all have together. And that's what I love about these sports.
For sure.
Awesome.
For sure. Yeah. You may still have some luck. There's a local girl, a buddy of mine, his daughter, she picked up the clubs for the first time when she was 16, and she plays for Troy right now. So
how about that?
Maybe there's still some hope in there for Caroline. if this tennis thing doesn't take.
I tried it. I've tried to entice her. I've tried to pay her. I mean, I've tried to with clothes, with shoes. I don't know. So here's the thing. It goes back to what my wife told me many, many years ago is, how about just listen to what they're enjoying and get involved there. And that's what I've done. And as tough as that is, sometimes that was a nice little dose of reality.
Well, as a buddy of mine did, his daughter got a little taste of success because he started she was pretty good, and she also didn't want to play. But then she got to play in some scrambles, some 4-man scrambles. And when she got to tee off from the ladies' tees up there, and she ended up like carrying the team and realized the success was there, it kind of hit her. She was like, man, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I'm better than these guys. I'm better than the old guys that are playing with me.
That's it.
But again, like your wife's smarter than all of us. She's already told you, so you got to follow instructions.
You know, and I think too, it's one of those things where because they're out there hitting a ball and going to chasing it and hitting it again and hitting it again and walking and chasing it and hitting it again, I think some of them just get bored with it, and they don't understand at that age what they're doing and what they're accomplishing. No matter how good you tell them they are, they're like, Dad, I'm hitting the ball and I'm walking down in the fairway. And for us men, there's something sacred about that and something awesome about that, but they don't get that. And so at a kid that's 5 to 10 years old, even into their teenage years, it doesn't matter how far they can hit it or how long they make a putt or some awesome bunker shot that goes in. They're like, what? I mean, this is, so for us, it's, we think back to watching these guys that we call heroes, and we want them to emulate those kind of things. So. Sure.
Well, dude, this has been awesome.
This is great.
Appreciate this conversation. It's more than I ever expected you to give us.
Well, good.
It has been, like I said, I kind of shot out a message just in the dark, just to see if you'd be willing to come on. And not only do you come on, you kind of give us some pub on the show, and you just pour out into us. And I learned a lot today, and had some fun jokes and conversations, and it's just been great, man. We really appreciate it. I hope you can come on again sometime soon.
Yeah, Kyle, Ben, I've loved every minute of it. I love hashing out life. And, we're all in this together as dads and sports fans and husbands. And so, listen, anytime, it's an honor. It's an honor that you would ask me. So I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Well, it epitomizes what we do. I mean, we say Dad Bod Golf Pod. I mean, we're dads first, and then we play golf. So, absolutely. That's why we like having, guys like you on that are both fathers as well as involved as much as possible. So again, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Enjoy.
Right. Catch us next time. We'll be live again tomorrow. The Dadbod Golf Pod.
Always stroking.
Always stroking.